Perfect.
I know it's Turkey Day, and you and I want to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving before we get into sports. And one of the ways we can do that is remind everybody that they can get a great discount for our Black Friday specials for the March 22nd RebelCon out in Las Vegas.
Yeah, let's start off with the Kansas City Chiefs. For whatever reason this year, John, they're 10-1, but for whatever reason, everybody seems to think these Chiefs aren't all that good. They're like, well, they're just not winning the way they usually win and all the rest of that. And I would say this. First of all, I completely disagree. I think they might be a better Kansas City team now than they have been in the previous years. And I think that's why it's going to lead them probably back to the Super Bowl once again. Now, the ball can always bounce in a lot of different ways. But, John, how about if I told you this? They didn't just have like a weak schedule like many of the teams that are out there, and I'd throw the Minnesota Vikings in that category. When you look back and you see what their wins have been, John, they're a 9-2 football team. That's great. And they've been playing, very, very good. They've been able to close out. But they have struggled with a lot of the teams that they have beaten, and a lot of those teams that they've beaten are teams that have already been beaten by a lot of other people. On the other hand, the Kansas City Chiefs, the Ravens, they beat them. The Bengals, they beat them. The Falcons, which, you can look at them however you want, but it's a pretty good football team. And when Kirk Cousins is healthy and throwing the ball around there, they're a pretty damn good football team. The Chargers, good team. Buccaneers, their record's not great, but I'll tell you what, I watch Baker Mayfield every week, and he just gets a little bit better and a little bit better. But here's the reason why I think the Kansas City Chiefs are worth keeping an eye on, John, as far as who's going to come from the AFC. Their defense. They are number 9 in points allowed. They're number 4 in total yards. They're number 3 in rushing yards, and they got a top 10 offense. I would say they have put together a great package. All you've got to do is look over at the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens, their offense is outstanding. Derrick Henry, King Henry, definitely one of the best backs in all of football, right? Great quarterback. He's probably the MVP again. So they've got it on offense. This is not the Ravens of the past on defense, John. They're giving up points, and they're giving up a lot of points. So they don't have what Kansas City has, which is phenomenal offense, great defense. They can put that together. That's a team that probably gets themselves right back in the Super Bowl. Do you agree, or do you agree with the other folks that think, you know what, Kansas City is just not as good this year as they've been?
I think they really improved with the wide receiver at speed, Pete.
Yeah.
And a speed wide receiver, you've heard it before from many people, but you can't defense speed. It doesn't matter. I mean, you can double them up. It's still not the same. You've got to get them a bump on the line, and then the second guy's got to get over there and get on top of them, because otherwise they're going to run right by you. If you let those wideouts with that much speed, and we're talking about some of the fastest guys to ever play pro football, I think that's a game changer for Mahomes to have that. As good as Tyreek the Streak was and still is, he's playing down in Miami. This guy is a pretty decent replacement for him. And by the way, they still have great running back, and Travis Kelce might be paying more attention to Taylor Swift than he is to his stats this year, but he's still pretty decent at tight end. He might not be at his all-pro level, Pete, but he's pretty damn good still.
Yeah.
I would say Buffalo, and then, believe it or not, Pete, I would go all the way down to the Chargers. Like you said, Jim Harbaugh has just totally changed that culture. And that's one of the things that lets you win in the playoffs. So I'd say Buffalo and the Chargers, the LA Chargers, could make a run at Kansas City.
I don't disagree. I like the Chargers a lot. I think they had a couple of mistakes this past week when they played against the Ravens, against his brother, and they had a couple of long runs, more than one long run. And that got kind of that turned things around in a hurry. But I like the Chargers a lot. I think that they are still young. They're still learning, and they're going to be competitive. But Kansas City, man, oh, man, they just put it together. All right, the college football playoff, John. Now, this one's right in your backyard, because I wanted to ask you about this. So we know who the general teams are probably going to be right now. Really close, but it's not finished. We still got room. There's a lot of games that are still to be played, and some of them are going to be starting tomorrow, and they're going to go through the weekend. But here's one for you. Being a Tulane kind of a guy, they're 9-2, good football team. They had 2 losses early. They lost to K-State. They lost to Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma is a team that just got done putting the wood to Alabama. So Oklahoma's not so bad. Their record's not great, but they got a lot of talent. But Tulane, John, I'll give you this. You've got some ballers on that offense for sure. Your quarterback is 66% completions, 18 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. You got a running back with 1,200 yards, 5.5 carry, 15 touchdowns. And by the way, your tight end's got 6 touchdowns. Anytime I see a quarterback that's thrown to the tight end, it makes me like that quarterback a lot better because it means he's pretty damn smart. They're always open. You and I know that as linebackers. Does Tulane have a legit shot, and will they get into the playoff, in your opinion?
If this was 5 years ago, Pete, I'd say no. They're just playing patsies. But Tulane, as you and I know, has made the bowls the last several years. They knocked off USC, shocked the world with that. And then they get in there and they beat Utah. I mean, this is a damn good coach and coaching staff, Pete. So I'm going to be going down to Tulane next Tuesday, by the way. So I'll try to talk to the coach for you. But I'm teaching a class. I do it once a quarter on their quarter system. So I'm teaching a class on trading down there at Tulane on the Wednesday. Let me see. Is it Tuesday? Or maybe I'm teaching the class on Wednesday, but I go down there Tuesday. Anyway, you guys don't care about that. But what you do care about is this is a good football team. And they can beat a lot of the teams that are out there right now because Pete's right. The quarterback does not just hand the ball off, not just run himself, and not just throw the ball to some speedy wide receiver. He actually scans the field, and yeah, he occasionally throws to the tight end, which, as Pete said, is something that not every quarterback, not every offense actually uses their tight ends. I'll tell you a place that doesn't, Pete, Notre Dame. I mean, how many Notre Dame tight ends are in pro football? A lot. But you know how many of them scored more than 2 touchdowns in a season? Probably 0. They don't throw the ball to the tight end. They just have them block. But there's some damn good tight ends that come out of Notre Dame. And unfortunately, the quarterback doesn't really look their way much. But this one at Tulane does look at that tight end, and that's a difference maker, Pete.
Last thing I'll say, John, is that I hate to break the news to you, but there's a potential that you might lose that coach at Tulane because North Carolina is firing their head coach, and they are looking right at Tulane right now. So we'll see what happens. Maybe he doesn't want the job. Maybe he does. But North Carolina is a damn good place to be a football coach. I can tell you that.
You bet. Well, from Pete and I, we'd like to wish all of you a very safe and happy Thanksgiving. I'll be up there at Pete's house. There's a Rebel turkey right there on the screen, Pete. That's an AI-generated Rebel turkey. And we hope you guys have a fabulous Thanksgiving, and we will be back for you next week, Monday. Enjoy and be safe.